Hey everyone, it's Danielle Taylor with Keller Williams Realty here on the beautiful Outer Banks. And it's that time again. It is time to talk about February stats. So just a reminder that all of this information is courtesy of the Banks Association of Realtors, and the time frame runs through February 29th, 2024. Yep, Feb 29, extra day. So let's dive in. So the first thing that we always talk about is how we're tracking in terms of residential unit sales. And year to date 2024, now we're only 2 months in, but year to date 2024, we're down about 11% versus 2023. Okay, so sales are tracking down. February over February, so 24 over 23, we're down about 18%. So we're starting to really see that trend of lower sales. However, February was up 11% over January. So again, when we're this early in the year, it's hard to really put a lot of meaning into the year-to-date numbers, but February did track higher than January. So the last thing I did was took a look back into 2019, because remember, we've been kind of hearkening back to that statistic to kind of say, well, that was our pre-COVID normal. And what we saw, or what I saw when I looked back, is that February was down 12% over 2019. So we really are tracking lower in terms of unit sales. Let's talk about inventory. That's really the next big thing. So average monthly inventory that I do on that rolling 12 calendar is sitting up about 2%. So it's up about 2% on the rolling 12, but it's down 69% over the March 19th to February 20 rolling 12. Sorry, I want to explain why I pulled that, because that was kind of the pre-COVID inventory rolling 12 that we can go back to look at. So we're still down. I guess the whole thing I'm trying to say with that is that inventory is still tracking so much lower than it was pre-COVID. So yes, sales are down, but our inventory is down significantly more than that. There were 223 new residential listings that hit the market in February. That's excluding co-ownership. So just remember, I exclude those. And that's 223 versus 183 that hit in February of 2023. So that's up about 22%. So new listing inventory up about 22%. But of that new listing inventory, 46% of the properties that were listed in February are already sold or under contract by about mid-March. And those had an average days on market of about 10. So again, we keep seeing this trend of just things coming on and the good stuff coming on and going really quickly. So just something to bear in mind. Overall, residential inventory was down from January 2%. So we were up in sales over January and down in inventory over January. So again, early in the year, we just don't know where we're going to end up. Next thing we talk about is median residential sale price. So year to date in 2024, we're sitting at about $547,500, and that's up 9% over the year prior. And that excludes co-ownerships, just reminding you again. So that is a really interesting statistic, because it definitely shows that even though our sales are down, our prices are holding. Each month we also, behind the scenes, I don't always bring it onto the video, but we're always kind of tracking how things are doing by price category, because it can be very different if you're buying on the lower end versus the higher end. And year to date, interesting thing that came out, year to date, the 1 million plus bracket had a higher percentage of multiple offers. It was about 24%, and 46% of those people paid cash. Now that doesn't surprise me a lot, because in that category, we do tend to see buyers that have flexibility in terms of how they decide to finance a project. But I thought that was kind of interesting overall. From a total market perspective for residential, our sold to asking price ratio sits at about 96%. I often get asked about that. And the interesting thing though is that changes depending on whether a property has done a price reduction or not. So year to date, we've seen that about 34% of the properties that sold had to do at least one price reduction before they sold, okay? And for those that did a price reduction before selling, they ended up getting about 87% of their original asking price. Versus the properties that did not do a price reduction, they ended up getting about 97% of their original asking price. So I think that's a pretty interesting statistic for us to watch. Overall, the 34% doing a price reduction before selling is tracking slightly higher. For the full year 23, it was 30%. So we'll kind of watch that statistic and see how that trends at the end. So I do get the question a lot, like, are we still seeing multiple offers? The answer is yes. So in January, we saw about 21% of the properties disclosing that they had multiple offers. And in February, we saw about 22% disclosing that they had multiple offers. So it is still part of our market, but it's less than a quarter. So average days on market for our residential inventory year to date is sitting at about 65. That's up from 55 in 2023 year to date. The median's sitting about 33. So remember, median's the midpoint. For all of our active properties that are sitting on the market waiting to find the right buyer, they're sitting at about 99, which is almost double what we had for under contract, which is about 54. So those trends, I think those have been pretty consistent. The average days on market for properties that had to do a price reduction before selling was about 112 versus 36 for those without. So again, just one of those things to keep in mind. So things are taking longer to sell. We are seeing less sales. Prices seem to be holding, but our inventory is creeping up. So that's kind of the summary and all the stats in a nutshell. One last thing that I am going to keep an eye on is that we found out that Dare County foreclosure filings have started to go up. Now, when I say they're up, it's like 11. It's only 11 total. So don't take that as like, oh my gosh, we've got all this distressed property. But I do think it's an interesting thing for us to keep an eye on and to watch and see if any of those start to hit or affect the MLS. But like right now it's low. It's much higher than it's been. So that's about it. As always, please subscribe. Make sure you don't miss any updates. Make sure you're also getting our newsletter. We phrase things and give information in a totally different way than on the videos. And you can always reach out, call, text, email. We would love to help any way we can. Hope you have a great day.